And, I think reparations is a good idea, but we can't do it while we're constantly fighting and arguing. It's got to be something that we can come together and do and sit down and discuss as Americans.
Right. The only thing I ask for reparations, I don't mind handing out the reparations. The only thing I feel is you have to be traced back to a person that was enslaved. So
and here's my thing.
How do we find that out?
These folks don't have a heritage, right? Because we took that from them. They can't go back and say, well, here's my great-great-great-great-grandfather, because they didn't have freedom. We took their name and their hair from them and gave them a slave name and gave them the name of their master.
Right. That's why I said, how do we find out who really, is an ancestor? That's why I said the problem lies. How do you find out who really is an ancestor?
Well, most of it, I don't know. I think that we can do it because through different means. We have to sit down and figure out a way to do it, because it has to be done. Just because I think that if we're going to be a country that stands on fairness and stands on principle, that we have to acknowledge our past mistakes and move forward.
We acknowledge another country's mistake and paid the Jewish people reparation when we fought for them, which is mind-boggling, but, that's just me. I'm like, why did we give reparations to the Jewish community because of the Holocaust when we were helping and fighting for them? We had nothing to do with, Holocaust and all that. Like my aunt, God rest her soul, she was a child, and she had, the number tattooed on her number, and she would never even get rid of it or cover it up. And there was a reason behind it, but she never told us. But man, you want to talk about a strong woman who, I can't believe she would tell you the stories.
What I'm trying to say is that what happened was it was just such a horrible global phenomenon. And I think that because before the actual war broke out, when they were fleeing, there were ships of Jewish folks that came here to flee, and we wouldn't let them in.
Yeah, well, that happened with everybody. That happened with every damn person who came to this country, even the Italians. My grandfather has pictures, like I have the pictures. He used to take pictures of the signs that said, no, Italians, no need to apply.
I mean, yes, and of course, we've been harsh on all kinds of ethnic individuals, but nothing compares to what we did to the indigenous and the chattel slavery we did to Black folks. I mean, those things that we for hundreds. It's bad. I mean, and the more I learn, the more I study about it, the more I just think, we have got to make that up. We just have to. And it's not about, any kind of victim mentality. It's just about if this is who we are, if we say that we live by the Constitution and we stand by these mighty words, then we have to stand by that completely.
Well, hey, how are you?
All right, how are you, hon?
I'm good. Just wanted to chime in on the reparations. I mean, I hear what you guys saying when you're talking about like trying to go back to the lineage of just people who was enslaved. But we have to understand that, yes, you want to do that, but we have to understand that the oppression specifically towards Black people continued, like laws that kept everybody down for, more than 100 years later.
Right. So and the reparations are only part of it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's things that are going on today that we actually have to fix.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got bananaed or not. I just thought he left. Did somebody get bananaed?
Well, yeah.
And but the thing is, and this is what I try to tell folks, we have to unite to a degree before we do that. Right now, we are too divided. If we tried to bring a group of bipartisan individuals from Congress for a committee to sit down and update the Constitution, it's going to take a decade, because we have gone for so long allowing the Supreme Court to make precedent without putting it in our Constitution, we haven't updated our Constitution, as Thomas Jefferson even said that we should, that we need to go through. For example, we still have the three-fifths compromise in our Constitution.
Yeah.
That
Well,
that thing should have been tossed out a long time
long
ago.
time ago. Yeah, but that just goes to show that it had a purpose for that, because you remember, is a vast majority of the population back in those days wanted to oppress black people. They didn't view black people as people. So that's why you saw continuously, year after year, decade after decade, turning into centuries after century,
Right, right.
laws targeting the black community. You're talking about even when they got freed, they even built up their own towns. They went and burned it down because they didn't want black people to prosper. Everybody else got
And
a
that's
chance
what I say
to
about
prosper.
taking it apart piece by piece,
Yeah.
because if we don't look at that all the way through, we have to examine that why there was that resistance. We have to call that out, because if we don't call that out, when I look at those pictures in history of the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, where I see people, black people, indigenous people that had suffered in these pictures, and I see white people smiling and taking pictures, this is not right, man. And
No.
I know that's who we were, but today we still don't acknowledge that we need to make sure, and I think this is the problem. We're not calling it out and saying specifically, this is who we were, and we have to call this out and say this is wrong.
Well,
And
that's
because
a
when I was a child, when I was a little child in the 70s and 80s, you did not say the N word. You did not say things like that. And I'm not saying that we don't have things that we shouldn't say, sayings that I still to this day, being a 54-year-old white woman, have to watch and say, hey, I shouldn't say that, because they're just things that in our world I've just heard throughout my world that you just constantly hear. And so, I mean, even I have to try to work against that and try to stop and say, hey, that's not a word I should say. But I mean, like, people are not even thinking about it anymore. They're just kind of like putting it to the side, right?
because
And
because we still are as a country. Like when you say this is what we were this way. No, we still are. Now we have
and
more people fighting against it, yes, but core to the core of our country, we still are. That's why you're seeing that fight back.
and here's my thing, though. I think there are really bad racists in our country. I do agree with that. There are people that don't acknowledge equality, but I also think there are just some podunk dumb ass white folks in this country. I'm sorry, but I see it every day.
No, 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 that's true, but they're not
I
dumb
mean,
about
they're
that.
just they're.
They're
I
dumb
mean, they're.
about other stuff, but not about that, because that is a very strong view that they have that they won't let go. So they're dumb about
And
other
it's not.
things, but not about.
I think that, and I don't. I'm not arguing with you.
Oh no, I know.
I'm saying that these biased things that they believe, or these biased things that they say, they kind of think of it just as a matter of fact. It's not like when they say these things, I don't hear venom in their voice. It's just like they think that it's some kind of truth or some kind of just a state of being. Like,
Well, that's why I say it's who they are. It's because it's normal, and that's why I
right.
say
But
it's who we are.
and that's what we have to do. We have to make sure it's no longer normal.
True,
Like,
true.
this is no longer okay.
Yeah.
And for me, if I hear it or see it, I got to call it out. You
Oh yeah.
can't talk like that. You can't. No, who are you? No, no, no. What'd you say? You can't say that shit. You
Yeah, yeah.
know.
No, no, I
And
agree.
but I mean, at the same time, I think that I think white people in general always want to try to fix shit. Like, we always want to like just go in and fix it and forget about it. Like, I don't know if I'm coming across the right way, but like, as a mother, like when you see your kid something's wrong and you want to fix a problem, you just want to go in and fix it, right? And I think that because we've been the majority for so long, that sometimes we just want to go in and fix everything and forget about it. And this isn't one of those things you can do that with.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. When it comes to racism, more people are getting more comfortable trying to fix it. But that is where the issue is, because a lot of people this is a very uncomfortable conversation to them. Now they would go in and try to fix other things. When it comes to racism, you would see the discomfort, because and the way I look at these things, it's if you have a discomfort in changing something, it's because you truly believe in it and don't want to change it. That's where that discomfort is coming from. If you truly believe that this is not right and it should be changed, you wouldn't have discomfort. You understand what I'm saying? If you have discomfort when it comes to race, because on this app, I've been in a lot of lives with you before, and you would see people would be very comfortable talking about politics, this and that, and yet, and as soon as it comes to race, you would see a change. Those are the things that I pay attention to. Like when somebody is very uncomfortable even talking about it, even talking about change, even talking about admitting what happened. If you're uncomfortable with those things, it's a red flag goes up right away. Because to me, that is a belief that you hold dearly to you. That is part of you. That it's hard to let go. You know what
Right.
I mean?
And I don't think I think there's a difference between trying to speak for somebody and trying to say that there's something wrong in our society that we need to change.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for other people, especially other minorities, because it's not my place to do that. But if I'm going to be in politics, if I'm going to be somebody who stands up as a leader, then it is my job to say that what I hear from the minority community or what I hear from the BIPOC community is important, that they are allowed to speak and tell me what's going on in their world.
Sure.
And what I try to tell people is everybody sees something different out their window. What I see out my living room window is not what somebody else sees out their window. And what somebody else sees out their window. One part of America could have a serious problem with immigration, and xenophobia could be a major issue. Another part of America, there could be some serious racial problems in there. And I can't tell anybody what's going on in their neighborhood. No. All I can say is that I see the issues that are going on, and that I know it's not right, and that we need to change it. As a country, we need to change it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I was about to tell you this now, and it's not something that you don't have to speak for the Black community. What, as a white person, what you could be looking at is speaking against what racist white people do, because that's who you could speak for. That's who you know that they are the ones, they are the aggressor. They are the ones who's causing the harm. They are the ones who's causing the separation. They are the ones who want oppression. So speaking on it from that angle, because it comes from both ends. So like you could speak from that angle of it, to denounce when you hear it, to denounce the system about it. Like, that's not speaking on behalf of Black people. That is speaking on what you know that racist white people have done, and it's wrong, and it should stop. Like, you know what I mean? So like when we talking about it from on the receiving end of it, you're talking about it from the other end of it, because you understand what I'm getting at? So, and that's all it is. It's not I wouldn't say that you can't speak on it. Is from what angle you're speaking on it from.
And like they're saying in the chat, I don't understand why people feel this racism either, to be honest with you, because I mean, I don't know why somebody sees somebody of a different color in a different way. I don't understand why somebody thinks that somebody is this idea that doctors actually believe that people that BIPOC people feel pain differently. That blows my shit. That blows my freaking mind. Yeah. I'm like, what the hell is that shit?
Can I address? Let me address some in the chat here. Somebody said, "What about racist black people? Should we fight all racism?" Let me explain something to you. White men created white supremacy, and then white racism is a tool of white supremacy. We on the receiving end of it, receiving the hate and the brutality of white supremacy using racism against us. When we react to it, it's not us being racist. You understand what I'm saying? The sheep is not hateful against the wolf. The sheep is not hateful reacting to the aggression of the
right,
wolf.
and that's something that I also wanted to agree with you. When when your oppressor is hurting you for so long, when you are being slapped down for so long by somebody, when they are continuing to tell you something or hurt you, you are automatically going to have a kind of like a defense mechanism for that, right? I mean, you're going to the hairs on the back of your neck are going to stand up. You're automatically going to want to be like, hey, somebody's gonna try to hurt me. I gotta be, defensive. That's not racism.
Yeah.
That's defending yourself.
Yeah.
That's automatically being like, hey, I'm aware what's going on. I'm afraid every time these people are around me, I'm in danger. That's what that is.
Yeah. So like the guy is saying now. So basically, blacks can't be racist. You could be defensive. You could, and that defense and the hatred and
Hello,
prejudice
Keisha.
comes from being oppressed. Now, racism.
Hi, it's Keisha.
Keisha, I'm sorry.
Hello, how y'all doing today?
I'm good.
All right, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Good.
Let me just finish this thought here before I lose it. Racism was unprovoked. This is what people like that don't understand. Racism was unprovoked. Black people didn't do anything to receive that level of hatred and brutality. So when we reacted for so long, we don't trust. We don't trust. And that trust, with that lack of trust, you will have animosity to the people who is oppressing you. So you can't, I would never say that black people wouldn't hate white people, but it comes from somewhere. And this is what you guys don't understand. It's not like it wasn't unprovoked and we just hate white people or we dislike white people or we distrust white people. Like, that is not what it is. What you supposed to be.
No, and I don't believe that. What I tried to say before is the things that I have heard from other people and not from the BIPOC community as a whole, but people on the edge of the community that have said some things that I've tried to say that's not going to work out for you. If you believe that, it's going to come back on you because white people are going to be mean about it. And what I mean is, I've heard some people on the edge of the community say, well, I've had 400 years of oppression, so I don't care what you think. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I'm like, I get how you feel, but white people are going to come after you for that. That it's not going to work out for you that way. And it's not that you don't have a reason to feel the way you feel, but the way the world is, they're not going to understand. And so it's not that the animosity isn't deserved, because I have seen, especially in the last several years when I've had more and more conversations with more Black friends and Indigenous friends, I have found out more about what has been going on in the community. And like I said before, nowadays, if I was a Black person and I got pulled over by a cop, I would probably pee my pants. Because, I mean, the fear that has to go through your mind when you get pulled over by a police officer as to whether or not you're going to come out of that interaction alive has got to be absolutely terrifying. And that is, and to me, to think of that, I'm like, holy shit. And nobody's doing anything about that?
Yeah. Like, this happened to me years ago, before I got married. I'm divorced now, but before I got married, my fiance and I at the time were going to dinner where I proposed to her. It's like an hour and a half away, right? On the highway going there, I noticed, because I always notice vehicles because when I'm driving, I wasn't driving, she was driving, but I still pay attention to vehicles around me. So I noticed a police car. He was behind us. He was next to us for like about 3 miles. Then he slowed down. He went behind us for probably about another 5, 6 miles. And I'm not worried about him because I never got pulled over. I never got arrested before. I don't get in trouble, like that kind of stuff. So he turned on his lights, pulled us over. I got all her information. As soon as he came up, gave it to him. Didn't say a word to him, went back playing, I gave him my phone. He went in the back. It took about 15, 20 minutes, came back, pulled her out the vehicle. They were in the back of the car talking for about half an hour. So when I looked back, when I realized all this time passed, I looked back to see what they were doing. Then they were in his car. She was sitting in the front. And they stayed about another 25 minutes. So like we had decided the road for a little over an hour now. And all of a sudden he drove off and she walked back to the car. When she came into the car, she was in tears. This police officer literally was grilling her for almost an hour about me.
Oh, man.
And she was so scared that if she did say anything wrong or didn't know anything about me, he was trying to put me in jail for kidnapping her. Now, this guy don't know us from Adam. We're not even from the town that he was patrolling. Like, I was literally just we were just going to dinner and I could have ended up in jail.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. And this little comment down here, I ain't never told anybody I was going to report them to CPS. You can shove that shit right up your ass and have a bowl of soggy-ass Richards in your kitchen. I'm not listening to that shit. If I say something wrong, I admit when I say something wrong. That shit I didn't say. Y'all forget who you're talking to. Y'all had me in a freaking live for an hour with 800 and some people watching, and you still couldn't get me to admit the shit I didn't do. And you think you're going to come in here and lie live? Go ahead.
Can I just ask a question to this person? I don't know. This LJet69. What does that mean if blacks don't get what they want? Is always racist because TV and government tell them it's okay.
I was just reading that.
I'll be right back. I have to use the restroom.
Okay. I mean, it's just he is literally what we were just talking about. Like
I guess they think like we go through every day. Like this is a big like we acting like this don't happen to us in real life. Yeah. This haven't happened to our loved ones, people we know, people that look like us every day. Like we just come on here and make this up. Yeah, exactly. You know, like that's the part that kind of pisses me off.
Well, again, he is that person is one of the people who we won't trust because he wants to uphold that system of oppression because he doesn't understand. He doesn't want to understand. It's not like he doesn't understand. He doesn't want to understand.
He doesn't want to understand.
Yes, because there's no way you could not know history. There's no way you could not know what happened and why it happened. There's no way. It's like I don't give people that grace anymore.
Right. Because ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, no.
Ignorance is bliss.
They know like hate knows exactly why they do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a mistake. You can't just mistakenly hate someone. You know why you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah. So like, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Like things like that. I just was talking to some people and like you said, we were just talking about the same thing. The way that people, like you said, they want to uphold it. They don't want to learn. They don't want to listen. Like they think that we're crying, that we're complaining when things happen to us. Like, okay, we don't have that right. We just went through a whole hissy fit of white people in this country basically throwing a hissy fit because they felt like something was taken from them. The quote unquote election.
Yeah.
And all of that happened. You know, we say something, we protest. It's never the right thing to do to them. They try to tell us what to do, tell us how to protest. We protest, they tell us how to protest. We can't, do anything. All we're supposed to do is just shut up and just go along with the way things have,
Exactly.
is going and how it's always been. Like, no, we're tired of that.
Yep. Exactly. And that's why I say hate knows exactly what it's doing. It wants the oppressed to be quiet so it will continue to happen.
It can continue, exactly.
They are comfortable with the privilege that they were given because of the oppression. Anyone who go ahead, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to, because I got to go to work in a second. I give a lot of credit to the younger generation, like the ones who came up under me. I just turned 40. A lot of the stuff that we've been taught in school, we kind of just went along with, because we're like the generation the beginning part of my life. We didn't have the internet and all this stuff. And then the second half of it, you got more, a lot more access to a lot more resources. So, we're kind of like learning on the back end of it. But the generation under me, they're doing the research. They know, they're informed. If you want to call them woke or whatever you want to call them, they know what the hell is going on. And you're not going to be able to get a lot past these kids. No. I want to commend them because they're not taking it.
They are smart as a whip. Yeah. And I have conversations with them because they ask me about history and stuff a lot, and they'll ask me questions, and then I'll tell them that they're the future and they're going to change things, and they'll be like, don't put that pressure on me. How are we going to do that? Honey, it's not that big a deal. It's okay. The only reason we say that is because you're not thinking about me. You're thinking about we. And our previous generations didn't do that. No. We didn't stop and think about everybody. We were just worried about our own grind. You guys stop and make sure that everybody's taken care of. And we saw that from the time you were little. And now that you've gotten older, you're like, no, we're not leaving anybody behind. We're not going to put up with this. I mean, the older ones are going, why don't these kids want to work? It's not that these kids don't want to work. These kids are saying, we're not going to do the same thing our parents and grandparents did and work our fingers to the bone until we get so old and gray that we can't enjoy life anymore.
Exactly.
They're not going to do the same thing that we did.
Yeah.
They're going to figure out a different way.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I've talked to a lot of, older people, and they have this mentality of, because I went through this, that you should, even though they know it's wrong. So it's like, I got punished. I don't want to make the system better for my kids. I want my kids to suffer the same route
as a Gen X, I went through hell growing up. I went through hell my younger years, and as Gen X, I didn't want that for my kid. I made sure my kid knew. You make sure that the one that doesn't have, give them a piece of yours. You see somebody that needs help, don't wait for them to ask. Go help them. I remember I went without, and then now that I got older, over the last 5 years, I find out that there's so many things about Black culture that they hid from me in this white world that I never knew. And I'm like, what the hell? Black Wall Street? What? I'm 54 and I have a master's degree and I didn't know about Black Wall Street? What the hell is up with that? You know what that tells me?
Hey, listen,
that tells me
I'm a black woman. I didn't even know about Black Wall Street until I was almost 30 years old. They didn't teach us that in school. Those are the things that they don't want us to know.
And that tells me that white bread America and our country, the people that run this country, don't want us to know our history. They don't want us to know our true past. And you know what? I don't care how nasty it is. I want to know all our history because I don't want to repeat that shit. I want to be better. I want to make sure that me and Keisha both go together. We are standing side by side, coming into a new millennium together as equals.
Yes, and that's how it's supposed to be. If you don't want to make a better society, something's wrong with you. If you don't see that as a good thing, something's wrong with you.
And I don't know about you guys, but I'm so damn tired of hearing that Nina Pinta Santa Maria shit in the back of my head from kindergarten and up. That shit drives me crazy. from Columbus and shit. I'm like, that man don't deserve anybody to remember his name for a hill of beans.
Thank the daughters of the Confederacy.
And they taught us that damn story, and they still teach kids that shit today.
Yeah. Like I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in the Caribbean, and
I told my children when they get home the thing that's not correct, call it politically correct or whatever.
you cracking up. I think we might have lost her.
I hope not. She was speaking truth.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in the Caribbean. And the way they taught us when we were ruled by the British, Christopher Columbus was a hero when I grew up. They never taught
Yeah,
us
they
what
told
he
us he
did.
was too.
They never taught us what he actually did. And it's not until I got
54,
older.
54 years old, and this was the first Thanksgiving that I really knew what happened that Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That I really knew what happened. And believe me, it changed how I felt about the holiday.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
crazy.
don't regret knowing. I don't regret knowing. I want to know.
Mm-hmm. Because you're not uncomfortable. You're not uncomfortable calling out atrocities. You're not uncomfortable saying when things are wrong and want things to be better. That's what I look at. If you are uncomfortable knowing these things and will continue to do it, knowing because of comfort level, I look at that. That's an issue to me.
It bothers me that people don't want to say anything. And I'll say something about us not acknowledging the past, and they'll be like, well, we don't want to bring that up because it's just dividing us. No, if we're lying about who we used to be, that's bullshit. You can't build a freaking fortress on rotten ass sand.
Well,
And that is where we are right today.
the
We
funny
built
thing
this